Well, we start with the situation in West Asia. Joe Biden said a deal for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip in exchange for the release of Israeli hostages is in the hands of Hamas. The US president stated a ceasefire was necessary to get more aid into Gaza. Here's more on the truce talks and Biden's flip-flops on a potential ceasefire for hostages deal. Well, on February 26th, Biden said, "My hope is that by next Monday we will have a ceasefire." He was eating an ice cream while saying that, an act that attracted wide-scale criticism. Then, just days ago on March 1st, he said he hoped for Israel-Hamas ceasefire, that the deal would be by Ramadan. The Muslim fasting month of Ramadan begins at the start of next week. He now expects Hamas, already designated a terrorist organisation by the US, to decide the outcome of the negotiations. The US president said, and I quote, "We must get more aid into Gaza. There's no excuses, none."
Well, I hope by the beginning of the weekend, by the end of the weekend. At least my national security advisor tells me that we're close. We're close. It's not done yet. And my hope is by next Monday, we'll have a ceasefire.
There is a ceasefire bill by Ramadan.
I hope so. We're still working real hard at it. Not there yet. It's in the hands of Hamas right now. The Israelis have been cooperating. There's an offer out there that's rational. We don't know what. We'll know in a couple of days if it's going to happen. But we need the ceasefire.
The US, Qatar and Egypt are trying to broker a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. On Tuesday, Hamas negotiators stayed in Cairo for a third day of ceasefire talks in a bid to halt the fighting in time for Ramadan, free Israeli hostages and stave off famine. A 40-day ceasefire would allow some hostages captured in Hamas's October attack to go free, while aid to Gaza would be increased. Families would be able to return to abandoned homes. In the US, voters on the left are dissatisfied with Biden's unwavering support for Israel, as its military operations in Gaza have left more than 30,000 Palestinians dead. Well, we're now joined by our correspondent Jody Cohen from Ra'anana. And Jody, President Biden, of course, suggesting the ball is now in Hamas's court. What do we know about their likely response to the talks?
Hi, Oliver. So according to reports, Hamas appears to have rejected the truce proposal which was accepted by Israel, and Hamas is still reportedly demanding most of its original demands, including a full ceasefire. Now, War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz, who had a meeting on Tuesday with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he said that ending the war without demilitarizing Rafah would be like firefighters putting out 80% of a fire. And remember, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu had called Hamas's demands delusional. Now, US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller had called Israel's request for Hamas to provide a list of which of the 134 hostages being held captive in Gaza are still alive. He called that a fair request and seemed to dismiss Hamas's claims that they don't know where they are. And US President Biden suggested that Hamas was offered a rational deal. And as you said, he said that it's now in the hands of Hamas to respond.
Well, Jody, any deal agreed is likely to help in tackling the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. What more can you tell us about the efforts to get more aid in the meantime?
So we know that in Secretary of State Blinken's meeting with Benny Gantz, they discussed the humanitarian crisis and efforts to get more aid into Gaza. Israel has been coordinating with several countries on aid airdrops, and they've said that there's no limits to the amount of aid that can enter Gaza. The issue seems to be on distributing the aid, and also Israel says that Hamas is stealing 60% of the aid that's meant for civilians. And Israel's now coordinating aid to enter by land, air, and now for the first time sea as well. Now, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and visiting Qatari Prime Minister Al Thani, they issued a statement, and in that they said that a 6-week ceasefire would enable more humanitarian assistance to enter Gaza. But the Wall Street Journal is reporting that with Hamas still not accepting the deal, negotiators are now reportedly seeking a days-long pause in the fighting. Now, that would be to buy more time to try to reach a 6-week pause in the fighting, would potentially also enable more aids to get in and also give Hamas the opportunity to increase trust by producing this list of which of the hostages are still alive. This could be problematic for Israel because the days-long pause reportedly doesn't involve the return of any of the hostages, so it remains to be seen how this development would be received.
Our correspondent Jodie Cohen, many thanks for your insight there.